Thanks for tuning in once again to more coverage here of college basketball, Prime Sports Network. We are going to do what we always do every Friday and take a look at some of the games on Friday night, which we have been blessed to have some really good action over the last. Things really started to pick up about 3 weeks ago. All of a sudden now we've got really good games on Friday. We have really good games on Monday. And of course, you know what happens on Saturday. That's the big day. A couple days during the week, also pretty cool. But again, to sandwich the weeks, Mondays and Fridays now with some really good basketball. That's what's really exciting about the upcoming. That's when you know that we are really getting ready to play some serious basketball and to cover it. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to go over our top picks. And also we've got some futures. So we have some more futures to go over. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to start right there. Let me pop in who we like because I think, we have 2 picks tonight along with our futures. Or I should say 2 picks. There's our picks. Let me get our futures in there. All right, there they are. So we're going to be adding these 2 teams from our futures. So that's NC State and Texas A&M. Not a surprise that we're putting Texas A&M in there. We talked about them last week. We really liked them in that matchup against Georgia. I think they were about, a 4 or 5 point dog in that game. They won the game outright. And then they had the big close loss against Alabama. Not really sure why that spread was 7.5. I really have no idea. The only thing I could think about, and we've talked about this with the Aggies, the lack of respect. But, look, I get all that. They've got a new coach. Some people may look at it as a step down. I don't. I think that, this so-called Bucky ball that you're dealing with, which is a high tempo press, half-court press sort of action, which will up the tempo and make things helter-skelter sort of. And that's why it was a very exciting matchup with Alabama. 2 teams who play fairly similar. That's why you almost had, both teams eclipse the century mark. So it was 98, 99, 96, 98, whatever the case may be. It was an exciting game on Friday night. And Alabama held on to win. Texas A&M did lead that game, I thought, more than Alabama did, but they just weren't able to put it away late. Alabama took control of the game with about 5 or 6 minutes left, and it was a good one, a really good one. Even though Texas A&M lost, they covered still, and they are on a cover streak. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But again, I think Texas A&M, they were atop the SEC standings going into the matchup against Alabama a few days ago, and I think they're going to stay there all season. Before the season began, I looked at them as a tournament sleeper. That was my prognosis before the season began of this team. And then when I followed the team during the season, it was kind of hard to really judge them because their non-conference slate was very weak. And I think that's also another reason why maybe they're not getting the respect that I believe they deserve. Then all of a sudden, they start the SEC season and they started strong. I think they started at 7-1 before the Alabama loss and still no respect. Now, will they get a little bit more respect even though they lost against Alabama? Probably not. We'll get into that with the line and the Gator game on Saturday night. Look, I know it's really hard for me to justify teams when I put in there like UCLA, Iowa, NC State, and Texas A&M to win the championship. I get it. The main thing I'm doing, though, is going right for the Final Four number. And I really like the Final Four numbers of both of these teams, 25 and 40 to 1. So all you're looking for over the course of the season with these futures is you're trying to get enough teams that you think can make the run come tournament time. And the more of those you throw in there, the more obviously chances that you're going to get that one of those teams will get a good draw, that they'll get on fire. And that's all we're looking for. Final Four. Now, what we're going to do then is take advantage of that and also go with the Final Four odds. Go with the championship odds. So we like the 25 and 40 to 1 on both teams. And then we're saying, hey, if we're going to get to the Final Four, we might as well throw a few bucks on them to win the championship too, because those are pretty monster numbers. As far as NC State is concerned, this is Will Wade's team. And I know at this point in the season, maybe there's still some casual fans out there that have fallen a little bit asleep with NC State, and we'll wait. But this should not be a surprise that he's got this NC State team fired up and really playing excellent ball. And that's the reason why I think that as long as they sort of like Texas A&M. Now, the difference is that even though both of these teams are on fire right now, especially NC State, and we'll get into, actually, we're not going to be doing NC State's game because they're playing Virginia Tech tomorrow at noon. The spread's a little high. It's about 10. I would pick them if I was going to take the game, but it's a pretty high spread. But the other thing with this team, the NC State team, why I think they can make the run is they're a veteran team. So you have a coach that is really one of the better coaches in college basketball. He just is. Say what you want about some of the infractions and so forth. Fact is, the guy can coach. And was it a surprise then that NC State got off to a slower start? We're going to say this every week. This is just what happens in college basketball. You just don't know. Every team in today's portal day, time that we're living in is going to mature differently. Some will mature quick, get off to great starts. Others will end up, hey, we need a little bit of time to build our chemistry. And I think that's exactly what happened with NC State. They had some pretty decent wins, don't get me wrong, in the non-conference, but nothing, major. But really, they just started to play the best basketball right now. They've won 7 out of 8. They've beaten Clemson, SMU. And once you get past a couple of those, Duke, Louisville, a few of those ACC top teams, again, the ACC, even though I think it's better this year, and you even have teams that we'll get into, again, Clemson is one of them for sure, but Cal is a team playing Clemson. Stanford is even a team that you just can't sleep on. Virginia Tech, we've talked about them. So there's still a lot of decent teams that are going to, I think, be able to convince the committee this time around on Selection Sunday that, hey, you know what? Last year, I don't even remember what the number was, but it was pretty small. And it deserved to be pretty small. The teams that were on the bubble or even, they forget it. No confidence that team is going to do anything in the tournament. This year is different. This year, the ACC is going to bring about 5 or 6 teams to the bubble. And 2 or 3 will probably make it. 2 or 3 probably won't. But those 2 or 3 that make it will have an opportunity to make a run. And I think NC State is going to be one of those teams. And, if they keep playing this way the rest of the season, the rest of this month, maybe they won't even be on the bubble. So that's why I think you want to jump on both of these teams right now because I think there's still more to come. I don't think they've eclipsed anything. I think this is the beginning of them forging ahead and having a really solid season and 2 first-year head coaches. And I think that's also part of the problem. Sometimes, people fall asleep on that sort of deal. But I think NC State and Texas A&M ready to make a serious run or continue their run. Okay, now I'm going to pop back up the picks. All right. And there are our official picks. So we've got a couple of games tonight, as I mentioned, some good games tonight. And I'll tell you right now, out of all of these games, this is the biggest slate we've had so far, 11 games. Out of all of these games, I would say that St. John's and Belmont, if I had like a top 4, they would be in it. Okay, so I wish it was tomorrow, but because I'd have a little bit more opportunity to maybe do some parlays and things of that nature. And I've already done one. And it involves both St. John's and Belmont. So St. John's, UConn. I've mentioned this for the past few weeks. You know how I feel about St. John's. You know what I think about their chances. You saw the futures. They're right there. Let me see what they are right now, because they have not been getting any respect with this winning streak. And it looks like they still aren't. 70-1. Okay. If you think that if you have any inclination at all that St. John's could make a run, that, okay, maybe I'm gonna trust Greg, or Greg seems to believe something there. and I believe that, you got to do it tonight. Do it before the game starts. Because if they go out and beat UConn, I think that gets not that could be sliced in half. I really believe that, because that would be St. John's 9th straight win. All right, so they have 8 straight wins. They've covered 6 out of 8. Don't forget, they did sweep UConn last year. And they are the dog in this one at home. So you know what kind of atmosphere it's going to be coming up in about 35 minutes from now. UConn is having a fantastic season. We've talked about that. We know Dan Hurley. We know he's an awesome coach. We know how good this program is. But as we've mentioned lately, the thing about UConn, this year's team, you just can't compare this year's team to the back-to-back championship teams from a few seasons ago. You can't do it. They're not as good. They're still a very good team this season. They're going to be there as a Final Four type team, no doubt about it. They've got major wins: Illinois, BYU, Kansas, and Florida. But this is the real test for UConn. This is what's going to say whether or not, and I don't mean like a 1-point win. If UConn really wants to be looked at as, hey, we're back, man, you better fear us, then they're going to win this game from start to finish. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with not accomplishing that. There's nothing wrong with a 1-point win. There's nothing wrong with losing this game. I'm not saying any of that. Again, all I'm saying is I just don't think that this is this is not the team that we really, or these types of other opponents need to be frightened about. Very good team. They're going to be very good this season during March Madness, but I just don't think they're at that level. They've won 18 straight games. I told you the games they've won. Their only losses against the team who hasn't lost yet, the number 1 ranked team in the country, Arizona. So, but they are 9-14 against the spread, and I think that does say something about sort of what I'm alluding to. The good news is their last 2 wins might have been their best 2 conference wins back-to-back of the season, because they blew out their last 2 opponents by a combined 59 points. So maybe this is just the timing. Maybe it's right for UConn to win this game. And maybe, the way that they're coming into this game, St. John's needs to be a little bit worried there. But I'm going to go ahead and stick with St. John's and say that they're going to split with the Huskies this season, home or away. I'm going to take the home one tonight and ride this St. John's team as long as they keep winning and are put in these types of situations where the point spread is manageable, like it is. This is basically a win kind of deal, even though I will say this is basketball. And when you're the dog, even if you're only getting 1.5 points, like the line is, I think it is right now, 1.5 points, even though that's the case, I still think that every point matters. Take the 1.5 points. If you want to even buy a 0.5 point to 2, do it. I don't usually do that, but I'm willing to take at least 1.5 points. It's tempting to just say, oh, I've got a plus 105, say, on the money line. I don't have to put up a vig. Let's do that. It's only 1.5. You know how many times games have been decided by 1 point, and you're sitting there at the end of the game and free throws or last second shots, and you're just, oh, I wish I had that extra point or 2. So for the long run, I do think it's worth it to take that 1.5 points. Okay, let's pop back up the picks. All right. Then we got the Belmont Bruins. First time we've talked about them, and I regret not talking about them last week because I just ran out of time. I really liked them last week against Murray State, and I made some money. I should have said something on the show, didn't, but I'm glad I get the opportunity for a second chance because they blew out Murray State, and they have proved that they are clearly the team to beat in the Missouri Valley this year. This is the team, Belmont. And this is also a team that is lethal enough to do something come March Madness. This is one of those programs that can win a couple of games. Casey Alexander is a very good coach at this level, very good coach. And he's got a really good team. So this is a dangerous team. They're only a 2-point favorite against Illinois Chicago. Now, look, Illinois Chicago's won 8 out of 9. So they're playing their best ball of the season, but keep in mind, they're only 13-11. They also lost to Murray State on Tuesday, snapping their 8-game win streak. So as soon as they started stepping up a little bit in competition, boom, they got buried by Murray State, the same team that Belmont buried a few days earlier. Belmont has won 8 straight, covered 4 of the last 5, including their last 2 by 30 total points. And they are 6-0 all time versus Illinois, Chicago. So I like Belmont and St. John's tonight. Now, let's talk about, oh, wait a second. I'm looking at the wrong. Yeah, I had my sorry about that. I was looking at the wrong thing. I thought I had moved that into your screen. There it is. Wait, why does that keep happening? Hold on a second. Let me put it in there. No, that's not it. Why is that not in there? There it is. Sorry about that. Okay. So now we gave you the 2 future teams. We gave you the 2 games for tonight. And we're doing this live at 7:30. So get your picks in either way. And again, I certainly hope you were leaning towards St. John's or Belmont. And if you were, then I obviously approve. Okay. And I also want to remind everybody, I am not a professional handicapper. If you want picks from professional handicappers, you turn to my partners, Mark Lawrence and Jim Feist. They have been doing it as professionals for 50 years, and they've been highly successful, as you know. So they're the ones you turn to. For me, this is just an opportunity to let you know just what I'm picking. This is what I do. These are my picks. This is the information I put together. And so I'm going to share my picks with you, and hopefully I can help you along the way. So just remember, though, I'm not a professional handicapper. All right. Let's move on now to Saturday's games. And the first one on the board you can see there at the top after the Belmont game is Auburn. I'm going in chronological order. So Auburn is a 2-point favorite in their matchup against Alabama. But before I do that, believe it or not, I don't like any of the games at 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock. But before I do that, I'll mention a few of them. That would be Arkansas and Mississippi State. Arkansas is a 6-point favorite at Mississippi State. And I was leaning towards Arkansas in that one for sure. And because Mississippi State's lost 6 out of 7, and they have had losses of 32, 24, 20, and 15. And Arkansas, even though they have 6 losses, all 6 losses are against tourney type teams. So they have not lost to teams like this. But the problem I'm having with Arkansas is that they've kind of let me down a few times, again, against better competition. But it's just a team that I'm just not feeling it. I'm just not. So that's why I didn't put it in there as a pick. But you would think that Arkansas should be able to handle 6 at Mississippi State. Missouri at South Carolina, and the same thing. I mean, the line switched from 1.5 South Carolina to 1 Missouri in about an hour before I came on the air. Missouri's 15-7. South Carolina's 11-12. And trust me, I mean, it was not like South Carolina's got this murderous schedule. But Missouri's 0-5 against the spread in the last 5. And that's definitely, it's sort of like Arkansas. Missouri's let me down a few times. Arkansas is supposed to be, at this point, this team this season is supposed, Calipari should have this. Now, look, it's still early enough that Arkansas could make a run and get and start playing better, more consistent basketball. But until that happens, that's why I'm kind of avoiding them tomorrow. But Missouri, I really thought that it was possible that they could, make some noise, and it just hasn't happened. They still have time as well. But look, they can't lose to South Carolina. I still think this is a good play because they're a better team than South Carolina. And speaking of losses, by big losses, just like Mississippi State, South Carolina 1-7 in their last 8 games, including losses of 47, 34, and 23. So yes, I will be taking Missouri in that one. Actually, I'm not going to be taking Missouri in that one. But I was thinking of taking Missouri, and I'm not even going to take them because I've said before, yes, I have 11 picks I'm going with. And sometimes that doesn't mean I'm only going to make 11 picks. These are just 11 of my best ones, but I still can't put money on Missouri or Arkansas right now, even though I would side with them. Move on. SMU and Pitt. I came this close to taking SMU as my 12th pick. Same kind of situation like the Missouri matchup. 15-7 SMU, 9-14 Pitt. And their leading scorer, Brandon Cummings, who did not play on Tuesday with an injury, he may not play in this game. So that you need to definitely keep an eye on. This is a 2:00 game. The spread's 4.5. And look, SMU is a better team. They've been losing some games lately that if this is one of those ACC bubble teams I was talking about. And right now, I don't think they'd get in, but they still have time, and they definitely can't lose to a Pitt. SMU, 6 of their 7 losses against tourney-type teams. The only loss that was, say, a bad loss was still a team that's better than Pitt, and that's LSU. All right? So I still think SMU is good in this one. It's a situation where I probably will take it. Matter of fact, I'll probably take the money line. This is one of those situations where I might do SMU money line with whoever else, especially since it's an early game. And, there's another game that you should keep an eye on. It's a big game in the Big Ten. Both teams are right now bubble teams, but I would think Wisconsin and Indiana, I would still believe that they would make it, that they'd be tourney teams. Of course, Wisconsin has the huge win against Michigan. I expect them to continue to play good basketball. I think Wisconsin's another sleeper team and a team you might see in my future board soon. It's possible. Indiana, meanwhile, they got on a little run. They had the win last week, beat us. We had UCLA in that one, but it went to overtime, double overtime, and they came through. Then they lose to USC, and so I was hoping they were going to get on a run. They still have a chance to go on a run. They don't have to win every game. So this is going to be a big game, Wisconsin and Indiana at 12 o'clock tomorrow. Okay, moving on. In the Metro, Siena at St. Peter's. Siena's won 6 straight. St. Peter's has won 6 out of 8. I don't have a line on the game, but I might take that game because I'm going to guess that's going to be a small line. And if it is, and I think Siena may not be a bad choice because I think Siena should be. I think they've been the team to beat before the season began, and they're definitely living up to it so far, riding a 6-game win streak. All right, now we get to the games on the board. 4 o'clock, Alabama, Auburn, as I said. Alabama came away with a much-needed win against Texas A&M because even though they won that game, they're still only 15-7. And I say only because, hey, this is a program that's had higher aspirations the last few seasons, and they still have high aspirations, but talent-wise, they're not at that level. And throwing in the fact that they have been dealing with quite a bit of injuries, banged up here and there. Auburn, meanwhile, they've won 5 out of 7, including a win at Florida during the run. Alabama 4-4 in their last 8. So Auburn is in a little bit better shape right now. Also, Alabama just 9-13 against the spread. This is going to be big, though. It's what you have to keep in mind for tomorrow at 4 o'clock. The top scorer for both teams, questionable. You've got Philon, who's got dealing with a thigh injury for Alabama, and Hall, who is dealing with a hand injury, is also questionable. Philon is 21.4 points per game. Hall is 20.9 points per game. So it's not like they're a 12-point per game leading scorer like the Pitt guy I talked about, Cummings. These guys are legitimate top scorers for their teams. And I heard Philon did not practice today. And I also heard that, from what I know, I would say this. If you were going to ask me which player do I think is going to make it, if only one does and plays tomorrow, I think it's Hall. So it's also kind of why I'm leaning towards Auburn. I would have done it anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and take Auburn there, -2. Next up, how about this? I just talked about a game for the Metro. What about the Patriot matchup? This is a rematch of the Patriot Championship last year, American and Navy. And American did wind up, even though they clobbered Navy. It's interesting. Navy beat American in the regular season twice last year. They go to the championship game, and American slammed them and went to the tournament. So they had a matchup on, what was it? The 12th of January. It was at American, and American won by 14. So they continue to they hammered them then, and then they had a big win just about less than a month ago as a 2-point home dog. Okay. Navy is riding a 14 out of 15 streak. They're 14-1 in their last 15. They only lost to American. They've also covered their last 5 by 8 or more points. So I haven't got a line yet on this one, but I wanted to mention it. This is one of those games, mid-major kind of games. If you want to call it a mid-major, there may be another term between mid-major and I don't know what else we can come up with, but that should be a good one. Okay. Now we have another game we like, Grand Canyon and UNLV, and we seem to do a lot of Mountain West games, don't we? But we got 3 more today. So Grand Canyon, 3.5 in this one at UNLV. Tyron Jones, who did not play in the last 3 games for the Running Rebels, he number 3 scorer, double-digit scorer, so that definitely doesn't help. And maybe coincidentally, not so much. They've lost 4 straight, the Running Rebs, straight up and against the spread. So this has not been a good year for UNLV. They've had a lot of injury issues, just like this one. And it's just not been a good year. And there's too many other good teams in this conference, but they are good enough and they have been capable of stealing a win here and there. They do have that type of talent. But Grand Canyon is playing really good ball. They've won 5 out of 6. Their only loss during that stretch was an overtime game against Nevada on the road. They've covered 6 out of 9. Bryce Drew has got this program not even flinching. Mountain West for the first year, and they're looking like a definite tourney team if they can keep this up. And if they're going to do that, they're going to have to win games like this. I expect they will. I'll go ahead and give the 3. Another game from mid-majors, another big one. And this is going to be Akron from the MAC. Right now, they're second in the MAC behind undefeated Miami. And Troy from the Sun Belt, first place Troy. And I think we mentioned Troy early on, our first show. I think we mentioned them when we were talking about some potential sleepers, bracket busters, that sort of thing. I was a little bit on the fence, and I at the time I explained it, and still don't know whether or not I can trust a team like Troy to get to the tournament and win a big game. I'm still a little bit weary about that, but this could go a long way to determining whether or not one of these teams can be capable of doing that come tournament time, because both of them could be there. They both could end up getting that automatic bid. Of course, John Groce is one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the MAC, having another excellent year. They've won 9 straight, the Zips have. Also, if you take a look at their non-conference slate, a couple of losses that stick out. They lost to Yale, and they lost to undefeated Miami by just 3 points. Okay, so nearly able to beat Miami. Scott Cross is doing a good job with Troy, the head coach, and they had 23 wins last year. They already have 16 wins again this year. They've got a 1-point win over San Diego State. They lost in overtime to USC. So, that shows you that Troy is not a bad mid-major team to be keeping an eye on. So I don't have a line in this one, but a good game. I just figured I'd throw that out there. Another game I don't have a line on, and I wish I did, because I think the line will be good enough. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be picking this game, and that's Santa Clara at 6:00 at Washington State. We've talked about a few weeks ago, could Herb Sednick get Santa Clara into the tournament? Can he finally figure out a way to get a third team from the WCC? Well, the first step failed. They went to Gonzaga. They hung tight for about 30 minutes, and then they just didn't have it. Then they played St. Mary's at home, and we talked about that game, how important it was. They couldn't lose it. They couldn't lose the game. That was a must-win game of the year for them, and they won. Matter of fact, they have won 11 out of 12, including the win over St. Mary's. They've covered 8 out of the last 9. They're a 15-9 spread team overall, and they have beaten Washington State, their opponent, the last 3 times they've played them since the 2023 season, by a total of 66 points. So they have owned this series here Santa Clara, Washington State. It's on the road, so I suspect the line will be good enough that you'll want to grab or at least give them an opportunity to consider that. Santa Clara at 6 o'clock Saturday. And then we got the big matchup, Tobacco Road matchup, North Carolina and Duke. And I was kind of, look, when you have a game like this, you got to take it. I feel that way, unless you just completely and utterly just can't do it. But I feel an obligation to do it. And so I felt, okay, let me take North Carolina. They're getting 6, I believe. I might dabble with the money line as well. And just my feeling is it's a rivalry game. We've seen upsets before in this rivalry for especially on the North Carolina side, where they are not as good as the team that North Carolina is going to throw out there tomorrow night. So that basically means that if those North Carolina dogs can beat Duke, then this North Carolina dog can beat them. So that's the point in that one. So that means anything's possible. But again, the line is good enough where you started to think, well, hey, I'm only have to give 5 here with Duke. We know they're better than North Carolina. So I definitely considered that as well. But when it all came down to it, what really put me over the top, 2 things. One, North Carolina looks like they're now starting to play good basketball, their best basketball of the conference slate. Kind of got off to a wishy-washy start, but they've won 4 straight, including a nice win at Virginia. And so that was really important. They were a 6-point road dog in that one. Again, that shows you where they were at the time, because they had lost a game at Stanford a couple of weeks ago on the road. They had wins already, North Carolina, against Kansas and Kentucky earlier in the year. So you knew it was there, but now they've got a 4-game win streak. So I think that's what without this, no way. I probably, if it was still, the line was still like that, without this win streak, I'm all over Duke. But I'm willing to go down that route. And then also throw in the fact that Duke, they have lost 1 game. And anytime you're in that situation, you might have one of those weeks where this might be the perfect opponent to take you down, because Duke will not just lose 1 game this year. They'll probably lose 2 or 3 more times, even though the ACC is not all that great. And I get that. But if they're going to lose at least 1 or 2 more times before they get to tournament play, this looks like a good one. And you are going to see 2 of the best freshmen in the country in this matchup. Might be what everybody's also going to be tuning in for, between Cameron Boozer and Caleb Wilson. So should be a good one. Looking forward to it as always at 6:30 on Saturday. Okay, now we get the other Mountain West Conference game. Utah State is a 6-point favorite on the road at Wyoming. And interesting, because I had circled this one and it was almost going to end up like a few of the other ones that I said I don't have a line on it, so I can't make the pick. But the line came in just before I came on the air, and it was what I was hoping for, and at 6.5. So I'm only have to give up 6 here. They have won 7 straight versus Wyoming, 4-2-1 ATS during those games. They're on a 4-game win streak coming in. Meanwhile, Wyoming just 9-13 against the spread. And this is really what it is for me. I've mentioned this several times. I like the Mountain West. I don't know whether or not it can be as strong as the last few years, where 5-6 teams, whatever the case may be. But the longer things have been going, the season's been going, the more it's starting to look like that's possible now. I mentioned Grand Canyon. I think Nevada has a shot, and we're going to get into New Mexico. Boise can get back into it, but only if they can win games like tomorrow night. So, but Utah State and San Diego State still the cream of the crop. Grand Canyon and New Mexico are right on their asses. It's not that big of a difference, but they're definitely on the second tier. And then you go to Nevada and who was the other one I mentioned? Or is that it? Just Nevada. Oh, Boise. So that does 6. And I don't think 6 are getting in. Like I said, I still don't think 6 are getting in, but I think they can get 4. I really do. And as far as this one, though, Utah State could be the best team. If you were asking me today who I thought was the best team, I'd say Utah State, but just by this much against San Diego State. Jared Calhoun, already in his second year with the program is 45-11. That's how good he's been at Utah State. And the main reason I went with this game is because it's the same reason why I was all over San Diego State against Wyoming when they played a few weeks ago. Same thing. I forget who they played. It was another home game. Again, a game where the line was pretty small. Might have been Boise. I don't know. But it was like 1-2. So now you got the best team in the conference at 6. But you've got a Wyoming team that I'm not sure why they're getting this much respect. They lost to San Diego State twice by a combined 26 points. They lost to Utah State the first time they played them by 32 points. They lost to Boise by 16, New Mexico by 20, and Grand Canyon by 12. All of the top teams in the conference, they lost to by double digits, home and away. And I'm only given 6 here. So, of course, I'm going to jump all over Utah State in this one. And now we've got another ACC game, a couple of teams. Now, Clemson right now should not be a bubble game. I think they deserve. Brad Brownell has earned he has just been one of the most underrated coaches in America of what he's done with the program. And he's not loaded with talent here, but he's got this team winning again. They have won 12 out of 13 games. The only loss was overtime to that North Carolina State team I talked about. They've also covered 8 out of 10. They got a 19-4 record this year. So, yeah, they should not be on the bubble right now. Cal's a bubble team, though. They've won 17 games, and Mark Madsen's got his best team. This is his third year. He had 13 wins, 14 wins, and he's already got 17 this year. So, big year from Mark Madsen and Cal. They've won 4 out of 5, including a win against North Carolina, and they were a 6-point home dog in that matchup. So, matter of fact, I think that was the North Carolina probably went to Stanford and Cal back-to-back in a few days and lost to both of them. I think that's what it was. Cal's got a win over UCLA earlier this season. I'm taking Cal, as you can see, and sort of like what I just said with Duke, but even more so because Clemson's not Duke. So I'm like, you know what? I think Clemson might be due for a loss here. But more importantly, it's because, like I said, I don't think Cal's on the bubble. I mean, Clemson is, but I think Cal clearly is. And if they're going to take that next step to get on the bubble in a good way, they got to win this game. They have to win this game. This is one of those games that is a must for Cal if they have any aspirations, meaning you're going to get their best effort. Just because I say that doesn't mean they're going to win. What it means is, and this is always a hard part of handicapping, you want to make sure when you're taking a team, sort of like the Utah State-Wyoming game, I can't be sure Utah State's going into that game and not thinking this is going to be a walkover and they're not going to get their best effort. That could happen. I can get screwed in that because of that. I'm just going to bet that's not going to happen. Or they're just too talented anyway. But this matchup here with Cal, I know that they're going to be firing on all cylinders. And this is the biggest game of the year for Cal. And I'm going to go ahead and take them and the 4. Because even if they lose, I still got 4 points. Let's move on to the third team that I almost put in my futures. Remember last week I said I was thinking about Illinois and the futures. And, well, now it's 12-1 because they continue to win impressively. I mean, they have won now 12 straight games, 9-3 ATS during those games. Underwood, this might be his best team. I think it is because I think it's his best team chemistry-wise. Not only is this a high-powered offensive team, but this team could also put a little bit of D. So there's a lot to like about him. I just can't take him at 12-1. I just can't take him at 12-1. I don't know if they can win a championship, especially at 12-1. I mean, they're on that level that you got to be. Who else is on that level at 12-1? Let me see. There we go. So, see, they're with UConn, Houston. I mean, they're getting better numbers than Iowa State, Florida, Purdue. No, I can't. Not at 12-1 right now. I'm sorry. Okay. But obviously I like them. And how can't you? Because they're doing this without one of their best players, Boswell, who averages 14 points a game, has been out. He's been out 5 games. They've won all 5 without him, including wins at Nebraska and at Purdue. That's how good this team is playing right now. That's why I have to take him in this spot, because Michigan State has beaten Illinois 3 straight times. They're a 2-point favorite at home, and they've lost their last 2, including Minnesota. They had a big hangover loss after the Michigan loss last week, and they go to Minnesota and lose. Not good for Michigan State. But look, we're seeing this all around the country, and I mentioned this a few weeks ago. Unless you're, and I still think that's capable of even happening to the Arizonas, the Michigans, and the Dukes, but not as much. My confidence that they'll go into those 2 and 3 game slides. But I think for the rest of the country, any team can go on a slide. And so I know it's only 2, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Michigan State lose 3 in a row, especially to red hot Illinois, who would like payback against a Michigan State team that has beaten them 3 straight up and against the spread. So I'm taking the Illini in this one, getting the 2. Then we talk about my Texas A&M Aggies. Between the Aggies now, I shouldn't say my, because Texas Tech has been my. But Texas A&M is now the little brothers of Texas Tech, but only if they win this game against Florida. Not cover, but win. If they can win this game against Florida, then I think they may join Texas Tech, but not equally, because Texas Tech, to me, is still a national championship talented team. Texas A&M, more like I said, a Final Four type team if all goes perfectly planned. So Texas A&M, I mentioned what I feel about them before. They've won 10 out of 12 straight up and against the spread. And they've covered 8 straight, or an 8-game straight streak covering. And for Florida, look, we like Florida. We've talked about that. We had them against Vanderbilt a few weeks back. And they've continued to play really good ball. They've had 1 loss lately, 7 out of 8. They lost to Auburn. And in this series, they're 2-2 straight up, 4-0 against the spread against the Aggies since January 18th, 2023. So Alex Condon's really taken over as the top player on the team. They've got a couple other guys that have really stepped up. Look, I think this is a battle of 2. When it's all said and done, I really think that this is going to be a battle of 2 of the better teams in the conference. I don't know let me see what the conference number is, because I don't think Texas A&M is getting any respect. You might even be able to get a good number here for Texas A&M. Let me see. Oh, there we go. 6-1. Not bad. Remember like a few weeks ago when we were talking about this, Vandy was like almost even money and Florida was like 2-1. And then they beat Vandy. And a week or 2 later, now Florida's the heavy favorite. But look at this. Texas A&M is the second choice to win the SEC as far as the odds are concerned. And so what you're getting is you are getting the matchup of the top 2 teams, Vegas says, in the SEC, Saturday night, 8:30. You get the home game for the Aggies, getting 6. I'll definitely take the money line as well. So this, either way, look, I'm going to be really intrigued to find out if Texas A&M can take that next step this early in Bucky's tenure there. Is it too early? Even though they've gotten a nice run, because until they get the big win now, they're still going to be the respect is just not going to be there. Now, look, if they cover, maybe that's the best thing as a handicapper. Maybe you don't win, cover, you still don't get the respect, and you still keep getting good lines. You know, that's not bad, but I'd rather just take the money line win and so forth, and take the win this week and take my chances. Okay. Oh, there's another game late on Saturday to keep an eye on in the Big West. It's the top 2 teams in the Big West, UC Irvine and UC Santa Barbara. And Irvine, the Anteaters, are 8-2 in the last 10. losing those 2 games by a total of 4 points. And they're 8-2, by the way, straight up and against the spread. And they had an overtime win during that stretch against one of the other top teams in the Big West, Hawaii. They beat them late January. Same thing UC Santa Barbara did. They beat Hawaii not too long ago during their 6-game win streak, covering 4 of the last 5. They had a blowout win, actually, against Hawaii. So Hawaii, who looked like maybe they were the team to beat a few weeks ago, now it is a clouded picture in the Big West. These are 2 of the top teams, clearly. Hawaii also, you don't want to give up on them. But this is a big one. The edge to UC Irvine, because UC Santa Barbara is just 6-12 against the spread. But also UC Irvine has beaten UC Santa Barbara the last 5 times they've played them, covering 4 out of 5. So I still lean with UC Irvine in this one, and probably a good one to bet, because I don't think this line is going to be you're going to get a good line here since it's a road game and it's a Big West game. So I think it may not be a bad one to take advantage of. And then another Mountain West game, New Mexico, Boise, and this one we're going with New Mexico as a 5-point favorite. Look, if I get beat here, then I certainly hope I get beat with Boise winning, because Boise, look, if Boise's going to get in the picture and finally say, all right, it's been a rough start to the season, but we won 5 out of 6, and you now have to take us seriously. You got to win this game, because even though they did have a nice win in their last game against Nevada, it was overtime. Now, I took Nevada in that game. They were getting 6, I think, something like that. And it was at Boise. And again, I remember I've said this before. I still think Boise's got work to do. And sure enough, it looked like Nevada might have been able to get him, but Boise held on, won the game. Now, the question is, because remember, as we mentioned, they had that 4-game win streak coming into the game. I think we might have actually, did we go against Boise last week? Let me just see whether or not it was, because I know we talked about it, because their 4-game win streak that they had going into the game that they lost was not against the best teams. And that's why we decided, okay, we need to see it to believe it, sort of thing. No, we didn't take them in that one. I just don't remember exactly who it was that they played, though. But it was a good team. They lost to a good team. And then it was like, okay, you see, they're not winning the big games against the good teams. They're just beating the bad teams or the lesser teams in the conference. So then they got to the Nevada game, and Nevada almost had them, but they did win. So that's why I'm still not sold on Boise, that they're ready to be in the mix for one of those bids, especially because New Mexico, who I already believe, like I said, I think New Mexico is already second tier, just behind Utah State and San Diego State. And that was proven in New Mexico's last game. It was a big game for New Mexico, biggest game of the year, and they got blown out. Utah State came to New Mexico and beat them up. And again, that's why you do have to take that into consideration in the Wyoming game. Will they have a major letdown? The good thing is they won, and I still think that, look, if they're not 10, they're 6. So that's the reason why I still like Utah State a lot. But that's one thing that you do have to maybe keep an eye on. But in the game, New Mexico was a 1-point home favorite. That shows you the respect New Mexico had under first-year head coach Eric Olin. As we've mentioned, that's the coach that took UC San Diego to the tournament last year with 30 wins. It was a great story. And then they lost to Michigan in the first round, second round, whatever it was, their first game, in a competitive game. New Mexico, though, has won still 8 out of 10. But they're 1-4 against the spread in their last 5, including the 20-point loss at home to Utah State. Remember this, too. Boise has beaten New Mexico 3 straight up and against the spread, including December 30th. At Boise, they beat him as a 5-point home favorite. So either one of the two things are going to happen on Saturday. Does New Mexico, brush off the loss, the worst loss of the year, basically, and get right back at it? Because look, you're New Mexico, you're not going to get the respect still like you would if you were in a major conference with a big name. You have to you got to keep going. And another thing is, if you get swept by Boise now, because Boise's got a little bit more of a reputation in New Mexico the last couple of years, still pretty even, I'd say, though. But if you go into a bubble situation and you got swept by one of the bubble teams, you're in trouble. Especially since Boise State right now, in my mind, is 6 out of 6. But they could turn into 5 out of 6 or 4 out of 6 if they sweep New Mexico. That's how big this game is for the Lobos. Get revenge over the Boise State loss earlier this year. I think that's going to happen. They are a better team than Boise. They have been a better team than Boise all season, but they've got to go out there and prove it on Saturday night. And then the last one is Houston against BYU. I remember mentioning this several times last year when we were talking about Houston BYU when they played in the Big 12 championship game. And we talked about the fact that Houston is a bad matchup for BYU. They just are. The defense that Houston has is BYU can't handle it. Now, it's a different team for BYU, especially because they have one of the better freshmen in the country, this kid, DeBansta. So it's different. So you get that. But until BYU, it's still the same coaches. So until BYU can show me something against Houston, because they're just not losing. What I mean by bad matchup, I mean they got no chance. And that's what's been taking place. Houston has beaten BYU as Big 12 foes. They've played 3 times. Houston has beaten them all 3, straight up ATS, by 58 points. Okay? It hasn't been even close. Houston, meanwhile, comes in winning 14 out of 15, and they've covered 6 out of 7. On the other side, Kevin Young's Cougars has lost 3 straight. Remember, I just said it. Every team can go through one of these streaks pretty much. And they've dropped 7 straight covers. They're 0-7 ATS last 7. And worst of all, sort of like the Michigan State-Minnesota loss, BYU, after losing that, I think that was right after the tough, was it right after? No, wait, they lost to the Arizona loss. And then the Kansas loss. That's right. Remember, we had Kansas last week. And they had to come from behind BYU to make it close, but Kansas still pulled away and beat them and covered. After those 2 losses, they go to Oklahoma State and lose to Oklahoma State. So they are now in a 3-game losing streak. So it's obvious this is not them playing their best ball. Look, you can brush away 2 losses to 2 really good teams. But when you lose at Oklahoma State, that 3rd one, now, they are at home. We know how tough they are at home. But, yeah, I mean, I'm getting Houston, still the cream of the crop. You have to still say they're still the team to beat in the Big 12, even though Arizona now has something to say about it. I get it. But Houston is still up there, and I'm only giving 2. So, got to go down that road and take the Cougars. And that is going to wrap it up. So hopefully you were able to learn a little something regarding the information that the research and all that kind of stuff that I put together for you guys here every Friday. We're going to keep doing that as we get closer towards March. I know Mark Lawrence is going to start talking more college basketball, as will Jim Feist. We'll talk to Andy Iskoe on the Playbook ATS podcast. I know we're not going to start talking college basketball this week because we have the Super Bowl to wrap up and a few other things. But in the next few weeks, watch out. So hopefully soon we'll have Thursday and Friday to talk college basketball. And of course, just wait for March Madness, because once March rolls around, it'll be more than just Fridays that we'll be talking college basketball. We'll probably at some point in March get into an everyday college basketball video. So let us know what's on your mind. Questions, comments about games that maybe I didn't talk about, or if you have a pick or two that you like to share to the rest of the viewing audience, all that stuff we're very interested in. Let us know, and that'll wrap it up. So thanks for tuning in once again for us talking college basketball here on Proline TV. And I think that's actually it for our coverage this week. We'll be talking more football next week. Matter of fact, next week it's football. We're still doing football. Even when the Super Bowl ends, we have tons of football we continue our series of NFL offseason previews. So we're doing 32 of those. I think we've only done like a third of them so far. So we still have a long way to go. There's the draft coming up. Not only are we doing those interviews, but we're going to be doing, matter of fact, we just partnered with our lads to do the mock draft special. So that was mock draft 1.0. So if you really want to start learning which players to keep an eye on for the draft, check out the mock draft show that we did on the Our Lads Football Network. You can check it out either here at Proline or over at Our Lads. And so we'll be doing tons of Our Lads partnered offseason football coverage. Now, a lot of the scouting stuff, including the mock drafts, are primarily going to be thanks to Our Lads. But I'll also start doing some other individual videos as well pertaining to the draft and free agency outside of the interviews that I have with every team in the NFL with a team rep analyst. And we're going to be doing, I think we have 3 lined up already for next week. That's the average. I say like 3 a week. It should get us through till the end of March. That will be all in on all 32 teams. Daytona 500 is coming up a week from Super Bowl Sunday. We already did our Daytona 500 preview. You can check that out. That's available on the channel. Tuesday, CJ Radun and I are going to preview the season. We're going to give our championship picks and go over a few things there. And we have our new NASCAR fantasy segment. So we're gonna put a contest together on DraftKings, and this way, it's gonna be like a $1 or $5 entry. Anybody who wants to join can. So it could be 3 of us, me, CJ, and maybe Kevin Rogers. It could be 3 of us, or it could be 20 of us. But we're going to be using that relationship there with DraftKings so we could help you put your own contest together or put your own ideas together on what you want to do each week in NASCAR, either for fantasy or if you want to make some picks and matchups too. We'll talk about that. So that's coming up. We've already started some NASCAR coverage with the 500 show last week. So like I said, and then we've got our horse racing. We're already doing Derby prep races, and that's going to start getting real serious soon. So before it sneaks up on you, check out our horse racing coverage every Thursday, either 4 or 7 o'clock Eastern. Sometimes we'll take a week off, depending on if it is a real slow week of graded stakes races, which could happen actually in a couple of weeks. But for the most part, every Thursday, our horse racing coverage all season long, which really you can starts mid-January, late January, all the way to pretty much right about Breeders' Cup. Not too long after Breeders' Cup, and then it kind of slows down. December for like about 6 weeks, it slows down. But we're going to be here just about every week until Breeders' Cup, talking horse racing. So, and then our golf show, we got our golf coverage where I'll talk golf either Monday nights or Tuesday nights, the latest, for every Thursday PGA Tour event. So again, even though football season's winding down, golf, NASCAR, F1 we'll talk about as well, horse racing. And then we've got college basketball, really hot and heavy come March. And then we're also, what else are we talking? I know there's something else isn't there that I'm missing. Anyway, well, look, these other guys, I know they're into the NBA and a few games. And I know I'm being facetious, but yeah, the hockey season is the real season when the playoffs begin, the road to the Stanley Cup Finals and such. So anyway, I'm out of here. Thanks for tuning in for our coverage once again here at Proline TV. Have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll see you next week for more college basketball talk. And Again, have